Hello everyone, today is February 9th, 2026, and this is the weekly market review. And today we'll start with questions from the previous video. So, great man, maybe I'll be able to promote your web group after visiting this place. This is a letdown for me. Not so surprising, great job. Best analyst, it's a pity we don't listen to you in time. It happens. No questions, just happy. Thank you, good job, thanks for the video. You could have saved my capital. Thank you. What about AMD? I am there. About it. AMD. Everything is fine. Right here, they clearly should come down to this specific zone, obviously. And if they are not there yet, then this is definitely the exact level to look to buy back at. At least I don't have such horizontal volumes here. MD. But as far as I understand, this stock is promising. So, alright. Dear Mr. EXCAVO, thank you very much for your amazing work. In your opinion, are there good chances for a sideways triangle to form in gold as a consolidation over the next 3 to 4 weeks? Is the seasonal trend for gold in February-March bearish? I doubt that. Let's say the deepest part of the correction has already formed around 4,400,000. The next wave looks significantly more impulsive, clearly representing a primary wave. I understood the question. It is about the Elliott wave theory and gold prices. It's all very simple. We can take a look. And right here, if we follow the principles of Elliott wave theory, we have already seen this specific kind of market correction being formed. And so reaching the level of $6,000 at least, that is my primary target for this move. I don't believe I have already demonstrated that if this current point truly represents the peak, then we can expect to form a much more significant structure from here. Something like this. This scenario with a new high, meaning a reversal formation, or this kind of formation, or even this one, a triple for example. But I doubt that this is a reversal formation, because in times of instability, investors look for safe places for their investments. This has driven gold, and right now gold is that very safe haven that many are turning to. There is a large concentration of both long and short players here, so volatility is guaranteed. So it's possible to talk about 6,000 quite freely over the next 3 to 4 weeks. Well, it's very hard for me to talk about this because after such exponential growth, we should see some kind of slowdown, consolidation, and then a continuation of the movement. How long this will last, it's hard to say. To be completely honest with you, I am not even going to attempt to guess which of these options might be better, or which specific position I should ultimately decide to take in this complex situation, as it is truly difficult to say for certain. Again, it's hard to say right now. And well, it's really difficult, to be honest. That is the fact that the trend is upward, and the target, like magnet, is 6,000. That's a fact. So next. I sold 50% before I met you, and another 40% at the peak. After I met you, at the peak 90%. Already sold. Will you be considering stock setups at the minimum, for example, Hood, Palantir, Tesla, and so on? Or only Bitcoin? Palantir. There was a publication about Palantir quite a while ago. It probably happened right around here. This very drop? But in fact, this is the strongest corporation processing such volumes of data that aren't accessible to anyone else in this market or even in the world. So, well, looking at this, the stock is quite good, but I would prefer an entry point right here. At least, I want to be where the largest volumes are concentrated regarding Robinhood stock. Robinhood, as I understand it, it's a similar situation. The largest volume is here, so at the very least, you can start buying back these shares from this point. At the moment, I don't have any stocks, and basically only some limit orders have been placed for certain positions in cryptocurrency, but they will most likely be closed soon. Limit orders have already been set, and you can find all the details about this in the private group regarding Tesla. Well, that is the exact fundamental driver that is currently helping the American economy. And all the major American indices stay at those unprecedented historical highs that we see today. But when it eventually starts to go down, and honestly, the overall situation does appear to be quite favorable right now at this particular moment. But I would not use this as a primary entry point. We basically have this kind of sideways consolidation pattern occurring here. There is a centralized median line running through it. And this is the support and resistance zone we are watching. It would be good if the price went there. And after that, we somehow exited this channel. But there's a chance that liquidity from Tesla will flow into space, specifically into SpaceX, but we'll see when SpaceX goes public and what happens then. For now, the median line of this sideways channel is the first buyback point. It would be. But as far as I know, when such movements happen, calls, and then that's the story. Well, as we can see here, we can just take this, copy it, and take a look. This is exactly how it happens in the market, meaning it is just a normal, healthy correction that we see often. Let us even look at it like this. That is why I truly think it is a great, clear example of everything we can see happening right here in this specific chart. I'm not saying it will happen exactly like this, but just so you understand where these levels are. Let's mark it more interestingly so it's clear. So you understand if you're asking about stocks. But as I've already shown in previous videos, what's interesting right now is what's trending, what's growing at the moment. So, well, you see, it is all actually kind of connected to each other. And here's the question, you know what it is. So right now, there are such movements when large companies simply exchange investments. They invest in each other and, for example, invest in OpenAI or somewhere else. Meaning it's just money being shifted from one basket, from one hand to another. And because of this, their capitalization grows. And this is exactly the kind of economic bubble we often see, because it is not based on real capitalization. You can understand this yourself. It is just inflation. Now, if we are talking about the AI bubble, most likely, as you know, we have a situation driven by hype rather than actual value. It is a sort of elusive guiding beacon called AGI, which seems to be postponed, and nobody truly understands with any certainty what it actually is just yet. But we're striving toward it, and right now, it's just the beginning. Everything is happening very quickly. And right now we see there are many innovative companies and visionary leaders, but the next logical step is, well, why isn't it me? I think that's not really the main point here, because the next stage of evolution will most likely be the widespread implementation of AI by other already existing large-scale corporations. And only after that happens, when it is truly integrated everywhere in our daily lives, then it can be compared to the dot-com bubble. When, for example, investors would reason like this: if a company comes out with a website, pizza.com, then okay, all pizza will be ordered through this site. As you can see, looking back from 2026, no one knows about the site pizza.com, and no one orders pizza through it. But still, hundreds of millions of dollars were invested in such projects because people understood the size of the market and so on. In other words, you can tell a lot of stories, but the fact remains. That is, the technology hasn't really been implemented yet, and most companies are using it even as a marketing tool. Right now, I don't even know which companies are launching if they don't have the words artificial intelligence in their name, so that's how it is. But of course, the primary driving forces behind this shift are those major tech companies that currently possess the most extensive inventories of high-end GPUs, which essentially means they command the largest and most massive amounts of raw computing power needed for these tasks. Calculations. And that's the company that manufactures them. So I went a bit deep into it, but I think it was... Thank you so much, EXCAVO. If you have some time available, could you please take a look and do a comprehensive review of PAX-G this coming Monday? We would really appreciate your thoughts on PAX-G on Monday. So since September of last year, the platform has been showing very good growth. It holds deposits equal to its market capitalization, so it's very similar to the Bretton Woods system, which was pegged to gold. This is what makes me doubt whether it's really possible. It's a very new system with good cryptocurrency backing. So, looking at SPAX-G, as far as I know, as far as I can recall, let's check SPAX-G USD. From what I have gathered, it is actually a gold-backed asset, which also seems to be issued directly from the team over at Tether, I believe. It is quite an interesting stablecoin option if you are looking for exposure to precious metals through a digital format. I can't really find out, but it just so happened that it was launched right here, and now basically I know that on exchanges it's accepted, you can exchange it and so on. So, but it is essentially the exact same situation as what typically occurs with this particular case, and as well with derivatives, let's say on Bitcoin. If gold used to cost, well, there was this much of it. Then with the advent of derivatives, it grew. Now only this much physical gold remains, just a tiny bit, and it's exactly the same situation with Bitcoin. Everyone traded on exchanges. They even trade Bitcoin now, like on Bittrex, Poloniex, and I won't even mention the others. About the earlier exchanges, such as MintGox, but with the arrival of institutional investors who started creating various derivatives. And now, for example, many companies already offer the ability to buy Bitcoin, but not real Bitcoin, derivatives of Bitcoin, and in doing so, they inflate this bubble. And only a very small portion will actually be real Bitcoin, so the market becomes controlled. With the help of this small group of holders, those manipulators and so on, regarding manipulation. Before I forget, Ethereum. Where exactly did this happen? Well, it happened literally, and I mean literally, right here at this exact spot. Like this. Right here. Right here in this specific spot, I really want to zoom out, just zoom out a bit further for you now. The chart, so you can actually understand what's going on. This is a 15-second chart, and I even want to zoom it out to a 5-second chart, so you can really see what is happening in the market. And right here on the screen, we can very clearly see exactly how some of these specific algorithms are being actively tested. To give you a better idea of the scale and the range, Just so you can fully understand the data, the lower boundary of this particular range is set at 2000, while the upper boundary is, well, let's say roughly 2090. Now, this entire process was happening consistently for about 15 minutes. I was sitting here watching this unfold the whole time, and I have to say it was actually quite interesting to witness. This was an algorithm being tested with some decent volume. Most likely, the market liquidity was also being checked. This is something you can do, and I know people who made money here just by placing limit orders, and of course, scalpers really struck gold at that moment. So, actually, I also want to take a look at that. Or rather, not to look, but to show because, well, never mind, if you want, you can check it out yourselves. This was just literally on the 7th. Alright, thank you. The King of Bitcoin continues to keep us regularly informed. Thank you. You're welcome. Alright, I've opened it. The chart where... Look, I'm a simple person. I bought back at... right here. And I'm going to close this position. Well, literally, right here, just a bit short of $1,200 with the goal of buying back lower. Let me explain the reason. Look, here is the cold, hard reality of the situation. If we can safely assume for a moment that right now that is it, and we have finally drawn the very last point, the absolute lowest mark possible. By the way, I personally highly doubt that is the case, and I seriously question it, and I would strongly recommend that you question it as well. But even if we actually did this, bottom, then, in that case, we should form some kind of reversal pattern. Some kind, I don't know which exactly, but we can assume, we can look at some previous reversal patterns, for example, here, or this kind of story, where we had a strong rally and formed a super bullish pattern here. A pattern like that with a potential breakout here, and as always, there are a lot of long liquidations here and even more liquidations overall. Right here, it's the same kind of story, by the way. This kind of story is very interesting. Everyone here is expecting a breakout of this level. And by the way, it did happen and there was volume, but just to dump it right after. We can look at this kind of reversal pattern right here. As you can see, with one candle down, one candle up, we never grow like that. We need a certain range for capital redistribution, for accumulating more. And that's why I'm not expecting any kind of quick recovery, absolutely on anything. Not on Ethereum, not on Bitcoin. I'm just planning to speculate here to buy the dips, and so on. That is to say, they increase the total amount of stablecoins available in order to buy up those specific digital assets that most regular people are interested in and that the manipulator is interested in. So you see, it is not simply a case where I just buy something now and then sell it later on, I don't know, perhaps in the year 2028. In other words, this is active work and that's basically how we operate. Well, as you can see right here, that's how it is, right? About Bitcoin, we started with this, it's the same story, meaning here we have several levels. This level here is interesting to me in order to sell it as well as for accumulation. Here it's still unclear where the bottom is. That's just how it is, and it's the same story with other coins. I don't even think it makes sense to look at them because everything doesn't look very good, even though there are some attempts. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4%, some unclear 5%. But I don't want to, that's it. So go ahead and ask your questions, subscribe to the channel, and hit the like button. And I'll see you next Monday. Bye-bye.